allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the agenda, I'd like to add on the annexation of the Casano property that we need to talk about. And we can have a very quick conversation about the bathrooms at the Field of Dreams. And we don't have to do anything on Hampton and Bonjo? We don't have to take any action? Okay, great.
Can we add Huguenot Street contract as well?
Sure, if you were ready. Is that the Historical Society?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have any agendas for the public?
Yeah, I told people they were here. Okay, so do I have a motion to accept those?
The only thing I want to add is potentially we will be going into executive session for them, but is an issue with Highway and New Paltz Youth Center. And potentially we will be going into...
Okay, is that the youth center accident?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And then also, I would like to also add to that then Highway.
Okay, so
Yes, it would
I'm
be.
not quite sure if the youth center accident is executive session.
There is a part of it that is executive
Okay.
session.
Okay.
The actual action we can take in public, but
Okay.
there's a part of the discussion that does
Okay.
need to take place in
So,
executive
so both of those are personnel.
session. Yes, they are.
Okay.
As amended, so moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, so just a couple of things for announcements before we do public comment.
I can start with announcements if you're kicking around there.
I'm just trying to see, get the, just trying to pull out the folder that says
Okay.
announcements. Do you have something?
I've got a couple things, yes. The first one is Laura, I thought I saw Laura walk in. Laura Pettit now.
Oh, do we have to put the RRA on the contract or no? The RRA contract?
Do you have that prepared? Did they send it? It didn't say, we were going to receive it in mail, first class mail.
Okay.
We haven't received it
Okay,
yet. Joe,
so-
did you receive a contract from RRA?
Okay,
for
now
us?
let's just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I haven't received it yet. We are now selling for $30 a yard compost. We have a machine out there that makes compost, which mixes both the food waste and yard waste and chips into beautiful compost. If you need it, it's for $30 a yard, and it is out at our New Paltz Recycling Center and Reuse Center. Also, September 11th is coming up. The memorial we have out at Fire Station 2, which is out on the corner of Henry Du Bois and Corners Road. They will be having a soft groundbreaking at 4 p.m. But the community is welcome to go out there throughout the day on September 11th and leave memorials. Actually, and then September 26th, quite a ways away, is the library fair. So everyone keep that in mind. If you have any items to donate, please contact the library. They have 2 more open spots for which they'll be accepting donations.
Okay, and then we've been talking for quite a while at this town board about doing a community barbecue out at the Field of Dreams as a way to sort of bring the community together and just say thank you and, you know, just share community together. As we've been working on that, we've been waiting to dedicate the pavilion. Unfortunately, 2 very sad occurrences occurred with 2 people passing before their time. And so this town board made a decision to dedicate the pavilion, and we're dedicating the pavilion in the memory of Kyle Brewer, the young boy who died at the school right before track practice, and Margaret Zimmerman from the Bruderhof. And the Bruderhof was instrumental in basically getting the pavilion built and everything else we've done out at the Field of Dreams. So we have a plaque, I guess, and I'll just read. This pavilion is dedicated to the memory of Kyle Brewer and Margaret Zimmerman. May their memory live on in the beauty of this park and the land that surrounds it. And so this is what the plaque will look like. And we will not have the plaque. We're having the dedication and the barbecue next Thursday, which is September 3rd, from 5 to 6:30. The Bruderhof will be there, and they're going to be doing the barbecue and providing the food on behalf of the community. And we're asking people to actually RSVP, call Town Hall to RSVP, just so we can give the Bruderhof a sense of how many people will show up, but I don't think we're going to really be able to judge that. But people have been calling and actually RSVPing. We will not actually have the plaque ready for the dedication. We'll just have a big, gigantic blow-up of this, and we will do a dedication, but the plaque won't be ready for a little while, and then we'll do like a little private memorial with the families when Chris attaches it to the big rock out there. But it is a way for the communities to come together, share, the fact that we're all part of one community, and also in the memory of some people, sort of honor their life. And so we invite everybody to come, and that would be really fantastic. Before I just correct the record, does anybody have any other announcement that they want to make?
The only other one that we're doing the meetings now, which is on Thursday, September 10th, we will be having a community meeting here, which is not a town board meeting, for the discussion of the proposal of expansion of Water District 3 and Water District 5. So that will be at 7:30 at this meeting. We will have engineer, we will have hydrologist, the DEP. I would hope that most of the town board will be here,
When is this?
and the village board. This will be Thursday, September 10th at 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
What's the number of the districts?
Expansion of District 3, which would be the one of the formerly known as Plesser property up off of that lane, and the possible creation of Water District 5. And that again will be at 7:30 p.m. right here in this room. We will also have it taped. I'm not sure if it's in conflict with any other meetings that night, so it may possibly be live. I apologize that I do not know. Also, just as a note, because of some holidays, everyone please who is interested in going to village board meetings, please check the village board calendar. They have moved several of their meetings because of holidays in September, so please check the village website for their meeting dates.
Okay. What? Okay, so that's next Monday, that's okay. Okay, so town hall will be closed on September 7th for Labor Day, just so everybody knows. So Marty, you said you have an announcement?
Yes, and this is really geared towards committees of the town that think this would be appropriate for them. The village has a grant that provides for some technical assistance with hazard mitigation, and they're doing a workshop on Friday, September 18th. So if you're in an appropriate board and you think this is relevant to you, please contact Dave Gilmore at the Village Hall.
Does Carol Connolly have that information to send out to the department heads, or have you?
That's a good question. I don't know that she has. I don't know whether Dave has
Well,
sent that, but I'll make sure that she
could you
gets
put
that.
together something and then just send it to Carol and ask her to send it out to all the committee people?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, and then just one thing, I just want Rosanna for a correction of, I just wanted to set the record straight. Fran, you do a wonderful job writing for the paper, but I wish all of the reporters did. But I don't really read the New Paltz Times, but I was told that the New Paltz Times reported that due to the fact that I have a full-time job, that Jeff is running all of the meetings. So I'd like to set the record straight once again. I don't have a full-time job. I have a part-time job working in the Hunger Field. And my contract states that it is part-time until I'm no longer supervisor, which will happen December 31st at midnight of 2015. And then I will be full-time at that point, but I am not now. And Jeff Logan only ran the meeting last week, my deputy supervisor, because I had a medical emergency at home. Well, not at home, but within my family, and I wasn't able to be here because, quite frankly, my family needed me. And so the deputy supervisor competently ran the meeting. So for the paper to say that the deputy supervisor is running the meetings because I have a full-time job in Albany and not running the meetings anymore is just not a true statement. So I would like the record to reflect the truth. So with that, public comment?
You know who wrote that article?
Terrence Ward.
Sorry?
Terrence Ward.
Julie noted.
Thank you. Public comment?
Carol Pryor, Plains Road resident. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
I'm disappointed with the town board's omission of last week's published agenda regarding discussion of the questions and answers relating to the Water District Number 5, which is a 12-page document. It's obvious that some coordination between the town board, David Clauser, Dan Shaw, and Tom Rocco was completed well before the August 20th meeting, town board meeting, and therefore should have been included in the published agenda. Jeff Logan, as deputy town supervisor and resident of Plains Road and a designated liaison on this water issue, at a minimum, should be aware of the importance of this issue to your neighbors and have made sure that this added agenda item was made in a more timely manner. By adding this agenda item at the last minute, you have deprived those parties directly involved and impacted by proposed Water District Number 5 the opportunity to participate as listeners in this important discussion. Thank you.
Thanks
Do you mind if I respond to that?
Or actually, can I respond to
No,
it
let me
since my
respond
name was
first.
used?
Let me respond.
Okay. It was my name was used.
Just to set the
Okay.
record straight, I don't believe you were at that
No,
meeting.
it's not, but I did watch the video.
Okay, so if you watched it, you would have learned that we had just received from Dave Clauser that entire list of questions and answers. I actually got it that afternoon. So the first opportunity I had to look at it was that afternoon, the afternoon of the meeting. So, in fact, it wasn't a last-minute deprivation, as you characterized it. We actually put it on to get it on because we had just gotten the information. And we photocopied it to provide it to you, so you would have an opportunity to review that, so that on September 10th, you would have the ability to ask questions.
I believe
So
it was available on the website too.
Yeah, so it wasn't done intentionally to deprive you of any rights. And I just want you to know that. We really try our best to give you the information as soon as we get it. And that was literally off the press that afternoon. I think other board members would agree that that's what the case
And
was.
I think in that case, perhaps it should have been an agenda item that was held for this week's meeting.
Well,
when
actually,
we
Carol-
get into the published agenda, so that more
We
people
we
would
set
have
aside,
attended.
what we set aside though, that day, that meeting, we set aside time. We circulated that document to, I'm sorry, Donna. So, and we set up this meeting for you to come to speak about these issues with the board. So, I just don't, I don't think it's fair to say that we're depriving you of anything. We're
Yeah,
not
and Carol,
trying to do that.
I'm very sorry. I take great umbrage to that. That document was dated, as was indicated on it, on the 19th. It was up on the town website on the 19th. That's when we...
Question and answer.
The question and answer document was dated the 19th. We had it on the website on the 19th. It's still not on the village website, and we are now, someone help me with the date today? I believe that we are now on August 27th, and it's still not on the village website. And in fact, last night, the village would not even accept it, and I went to the village meeting so I could discuss it with a DEP representative, and there was no interest whatsoever from the village to discuss it with myself and the DEP as we did. We had ourselves the engineer, we had a DEP representative, and we had Tom Rocco, who actually happens to be here now, discuss it with us live that night. We literally got it less than 24 hours. I had it on the website in less than 8 hours after receiving it. So, so I'm taking, you can see why I'm taking great umbrage, but I take that as quick as we get the documents, we are putting them on both the internet and presenting them to the public.
And it wasn't like we got a draft of that in advance
Well,
or a
it's-
series, we didn't.
My issue is not with the document itself, the question and answer document. My disappointment is with the fact that it wasn't on the published agenda. And I
Well,
think
Well, that's because, I can tell.
I want the supervisor
I'll
to
answer
answer that,
that.
how that works.
We publish the agenda on Tuesday.
Yes.
And once we publish it, it's final. We cannot make any additions, changes to that agenda except here. So what happens is I set the agenda with Carol Thursday, then unfortunately I had to leave Wednesday for this family emergency. So Carol published the agenda. The reason, so like tonight when we did the agenda, if we don't amend the agenda, I don't need to ask the board to vote to approve the agenda. It's my agenda, it's what we're going to do. I don't need them to say yes or no. I put the agenda together. Because we added things tonight, the board has to vote to agree to let that be on the agenda at the last minute. So like Jeff Logan said, they didn't get the document until Thursday. They couldn't put it onto the published agenda because they had just gotten it. And so they put it on the agenda and voted to put it on the agenda that night. Now, you're right, they could have waited till this week to do it, but it's a question and answer, right? So therefore, by doing it last week and the board agreeing to it, they ended up being able to adopt it a week earlier, which means the information's out there for now a week, okay? And it's not like they adopted some principles or this or that, it's questions and answers.
Right.
So on the 10th, you're gonna have the chance to talk, ask, do research, whatever. So what the board did was take action as quick as they got it to put it up, adopt it, so you guys could have it and move forward. And so I really don't see the benefit of waiting this week, because if you have questions about it, you can talk tonight. You know, if you want us to put it onto the agenda, I mean, we could do it, you know, so.
That's fine, I just think that perhaps in future, when something comes in at the very last minute that is a document of such importance, or a topic that is of such importance for discussion, impacting a whole neighborhood on the water issue, that perhaps it needs to be placed on the following week's agenda.
Okay.
Well,
well,
actually,
if I can
we
just say-
went one step further, Carol. And I don't know what else we could possibly do. We actually went a step further. We set up a meeting just to discuss the Q&A document. So we're going to dedicate a session just on the document. So nothing's happening tomorrow. This is something that's going to be processed. So we got it.
Okay.
We got it a day before, and we'll be
So,
more than discussing.
the only thing I just want to say, and then I think I'd like to really move on, is because it was just question and answers, anticipating what your questions were and what the answer should be, I think this board, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking for anybody out of turn and disagree with me, I think the board felt comfortable putting it on that night and adopting it that night. It was actually a document that was making a decision that would impact your district. I would be assured, I can speak from the bottom of my heart, knowing the people on this board, I don't believe Jeff would have put it on the agenda, and I don't think this board would have agreed to put it on the agenda and vote, because it would have taken action that would have impacted you. Because it was only questions and answers, and it was an attempt to get information out to you guys. This board felt comfortable, and again, I wasn't here, but I would have felt comfortable too, taking action that night, because we can get it out to you as quick as possible. But I don't think this board would have ever have taken any action that would have impacted you guys, you know, without having it on the agenda, putting it on, doing it without you guys here.
I just think that it was a lost opportunity for residents of the neighborhood who may have wanted to come to last week's meeting to hear the discussion with David Plowser here and Tom Rocco and Dan Shaw. That's the basis of mine.
Okay, well, I mean, from what I understand, according to Jeff anyway, you're gonna have that opportunity on September 10th, because they're all gonna be here. And then that's gonna be the opportunity where there's nothing else on the agenda, and they don't have to squish in what they're doing. That whole night's gonna be dedicated to you guys anyway, so I don't think there was any opportunity lost per se, okay?
There's no opportunity. We didn't have the document.
It's
I
okay.
didn't
It's
have
okay.
the
It's
document
okay.
until the day, but
I understand that.
Okay.
So then I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
thank you. Any other public comment?
I really just have a question, Don Lee, and also thanks, Rob. The document that you passed out at the last meeting that I was here, the question and answer document that we were just discussing, you said that you were going to mail it to all the residents, and I was wondering what the status of that effort is.
It's already been mailed out. You should be receiving it sometime, and you may receive them tomorrow. If you don't receive them tomorrow, I will pretty much say you'll receive them on Saturday. They went out first class mail.
Okay.
And I will ask my clerk, did they get mailed? There you go. So they've been mailed out.
Very good. And also, just to go back to what you were saying, something about the meeting last night, the village board meeting, which I did attend. Did you say the engineer was there? I thought that.
I just heard him say
The
DEP.
engineer was where?
No, last night it was you and the DEP.
Last night, myself and the DEP was there last night.
Right. Oh, all right.
And myself and the DEP representative was there,
Right, I
yes.
saw you both. and
Yes.
I misunderstood you now.
No, I'm sorry, no.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks. Any other public input?
Gail Friedman, also Plains Road. I'm wondering if you can tell us about the status of seeker environmental review on the project. It's apparently still not a project.
I have nothing. And you'd have to ask
We don't have a project yet, so until we have a project, we can't declare secret. And you
I
gotta
don't
have a
think- I don't
project to
think-
declare
I think
secret.
it's- I
Why
think-
don't we have, we'll have more of an answer for you on that, maybe on the 10th?
What my understanding is, Gail, and I don't know if I'm completely correct, and I'm not thinking that straight right now, but from what I think I understand, it's not until the city, what's the term? Certifies. It's not until the city, it's not until the city certifies the project that there's a project. And when the city certifies a project, then that's when we can then commence seeker. So that's my understanding of the legal timeframe. And what I can say to you is just that I know we spent a lot of time with environmental lawyers, the DEP lawyers, our attorney, trying to make sure that the seeker process was, that was the way the seeker process should move forward. So we knew we were doing everything right, and that's what we were told by the DEP lawyers and everybody else, that when they certify it, the project commences. And at that point, we start seeker.
But you're in the middle of not plan and report at this stage? You're in the design phase, as I understand it?
And I guess you can ask those questions.
Well, you signed a design contract that is on the website, so I guess all I'm saying is that I understand technically what you're saying, the legalities of this, but to call something that is clearly a project, not a project, screams credulity. It's just like a comment.
A lot of strange things about the law. A lot of strange things about the law that I've learned recently. Anyway,
In regards to what Gail.
can you just go back up to the camera?
Sure. In regards to what Gail just asked, have you declared or has a lead agency been declared?
That's part of the seeker.
Okay. I've been asking that question for over a year.
I understand it, but that's seeker. You declare lead agency when you start the seeker process.
Okay.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, so before we have Trish come up, if it's okay, we have the lawyer here, and I promised Joe I would do his agenda item first, if that's okay. Oh, you and Joe? Oh, okay.
We already worked that out.
Oh, you already worked it out,
It's
okay.
already been
I only know,
discussed.
I only talked to Joe.
It's
and
been
I-
discussed. I'm sorry, this has been discussed.
But I'm already making an executive decision. I made an executive decision because I made a promise to Joe. So I could have overridden anything that got decided. So we have the New Paltz Views escrow account where we have to release some money. And Joe and I spoke, and you all have a copy of the resolution. And the resolution is a
Then
little...
not a copy again, you have it, or I've made extra copies of this.
So the resolution is a little long, but the reason why Joe did it was because he felt that there were some members of the board who are new and who haven't been a part of the history, very long history of this project and the machinations that this project has gone under. And so we have multiple times, we've given back bond money, we've been releasing bond money multiple times. We were holding bond money for some other things to be finalized, and now we're finally at the point where our attorney and the engineer, the attorney, Chris, and everybody feels that everything is pretty much done. It's been reviewed, it's all been looked at upside down, inside out. And because of a particular issue right now with a tax lien on a particular piece of property that's impacting a resident who is an innocent bystander in the subdivisions that happened prior to him buying the property, we need to sort of take action, close this out. So the town has clear title. The resident who is being stopped from proceeding on certain things has clear title. And so it's time to wrap this up. So our attorney...
So actually, it's just myself, and unfortunately, I think Roseanne, you and I are the only ones that actually have been around since the origin of this. And actually, I worked with a highway superintendent even prior to you, Chris. And so everyone knows it's a slight bit of the history. It had to
No,
do
so what I would
the
like
end
to...
of the road.
No, what I'd like to suggest is, since you're even the one who's been here, why don't you take the liberty of just reading the resolution out loud, and then we'll pass it, because that is the history in there. Right? Is that the best?
You want to read the whole thing, or
You-
you want
you-
me to paraphrase?
I was going to ask Attorney Moriarty
Well, I just know he wrote the
paraphrase
whole...
it
He told me
to
he wrote the whole thing for a reason,
I was
so...
going to be honest
Why don't
with
you
you.
paraphrase it? and let's-
to be
I was going to ask Attorney Moriello.
Might as well read it.
Can
So
we
Joe-
ask Attorney Moriello to paraphrase it? It would certainly cut to the chase.
And And I did do it for the sake of,
Yeah.
because you were board.
Thank you very much.
Originally, the project goes back to April of 2005, when the Lent family essentially did a subdivision, and it resulted in what we now know as Waring Lane and Lent Drive on the northerly side of Henry W. Du Bois. And that involves a subdivision that runs north from Henry W. After the project was approved originally, then the subdivision and the project were sold to New Paltz Views. New Paltz Views put up a bond, and I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $506,250 for the public improvements that were supposed to happen. In any subdivision, you do that with respect to the construction of roads, putting in utilities, and that kind of thing. As the project progressed, those roads were put in, they were inspected. Ultimately, the roads in the subdivision have been dedicated to the town and accepted to the town, by the town. And each time along the way, the bond money has been reduced by the town board and has gone back to the developer, and the town keeps what it feels is sufficient to pay for other things. In this case, virtually everything on that was given back. This also had to do with the roadway that goes from the Woodland Pond project that met the end of the cul-de-sac at Lent Drive. That's been constructed. Everything has now been done. The town has been holding a little over $50,000 for some final work to be done in there, and also for the town to recover its fees and costs for the engineer, Dave Clauser, the attorney, and also the rec funds. If the board members go to probably the second to the last page of the resolution, up above you will see a notation that the town is currently holding $50,010.27 as security. There is a planning board escrow amount of $11,390, and I think that should be 71 cents. That is owed to the town as reimbursement for what it has paid the consultants to this date. I've contacted Dave Clauser. He has no further bills to submit. Nothing more is going to come in. His role has been done, and he's done. As far as our office is concerned, our office is done. There are no bills that need to be paid by the town, and there's nothing to be held back for people. So 11,390.71 is supposed to go for the planning board escrow now. The recreation trust fund, this is the rec fee when you create new lots within subdivisions. For the creation of two lots, 8 and 8A is $5,500. That will be recovered from the escrow. There are 5 trees out there that have not survived, and they didn't survive, although they died within the 2-year period that we can hold the developer responsible. They need to be replaced, and so I've gotten their consent to keep from the escrow $4,489, which is an estimate, the lowest estimate we got, responsible estimate for replanting the trees that are dead. So the trees that are dead are going to be replanted on this 4489.
And just to interrupt you on that, we do miss him all. Al Wagner and I spent much time going door to door, talking to residents about what types of trees they were like and the species of trees and the size of trees. I learned what a number 4 tree is and what a number 6 tree is. And in the planting of them, Al did warn us that several of the trees were in danger of not surviving. I know normally we keep a 1-year tree deposit, and in this Al requested that we keep a 2-year deposit on it. And thankfully we did, because to Al Wagner's prediction, again, I miss Al tremendously. Al did, and I have spoken to him recently, and I let him know, and he was very happy to know that some of those specimens that he thought would pass did not, but some that he did predict would are going to pass. So, and also everyone knows too, Stacy did receive 3 bids, and the sum of the $4,189 was the lowest and most responsible bid. So we did very, very well. So thank you, Al Wagner, although you can see.
And thank you, Jill, for all your work on this, because I know that this has been a long, long project, and I know it's gone through many machinations with the escrow accounts and the billing and the back and forth, and a lot of time spent with the attorneys, and
So I move that the town board approve a resolution for the release of security pursuant to the terms and conditions of the resolution drafted by Mr. Moriello.
Second.
sounds like a perfect lawyer, Kevin. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. What? I'm sorry.
Just before you pass it, there is
Sure.
a provision in here. There's a bit of a time constraint here because there is an issue of unpaid back taxes to the county and the interest and penalties continue to run on those. And so I've put in here that payment be authorized and directed to issue as prepays promptly following the adoption of this resolution.
Okay,
So that those checks can be drafted.
And sent tomorrow.
made and distributed.
Fine.
okay, so,
That's what I was told to do.
okay, so
Jean's
we
here.
need
Jean?
to, so wait, time out. Okay, we did make the motion, we voted, and it's gone through.
Well, that is
And-
part of the
And it's part
And
document.
that's part of the document, so
So-
now all we need to do is, so we don't have to do anything else other than the fact that we need to, excuse me?
It's in the resolution?
Yes, it's in the resolution.
Authorized prepay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
In the
It-
resolution is
It is
asking,
the now therefore D.
why don't you read it?
Verbiage.
Yeah.
Payment to the Ulster County Commissioner of Finance in the sum of Jean, in the sum of $6,017.40, same to be delivered for delivery to the Commissioner to Title Work Services, Kingston, subject to the condition that such title company furnish to the town and proof of payment within 5 business days, next following day delivery to the Commissioner and payment remaining amount. So we do have it.
Okay, so,
And it goes on to say, Gene, resolve that the appropriate personnel employed by the town for such purposes is authorized, directed to issue as prepaid.
And if I have not signed it yet, Jean, I apologize, I will be in to sign it. I believe it has been prepared.
so what I would like to do is actually ask for a motion to authorize the prepay.
We did.
No, well, I know it's in here, but I'd
So
like to do a
moved.
separate
Second.
authorization of the prepay. So it's a prepay to, just read who it's for, just so it's in the record of,
The prepay promptly with adoption of this resolution with payment direction to the Ulster County Commission of Finance in the amount of $6,017.40, and another prepay to Stanley Schutzman, I apologize. Schutzman Esquire in the amount of $22,613.16.
okay, so
Just
we
for
have,
the record,
yeah.
that's the return of the money to New Paltz Views. They've authorized that check to be drawn to their attorney.
Right. So we have a motion, we have a second, I think, did we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. No, so Kevin, it's just so this way, it's not buried into the resolution, that when you pull things out, you can find the prepay, separate it out. And so Jean, you're the appropriate person tomorrow, and so you, Joe, you want the checks to go directly to you?
If it should come to me so I can deliver one to the title company and the revenue shop.
So-
When they're ready to get my office call and pick them up. And I apologize to Gene, I talked about this prepay issue with Arlene. It honestly didn't dawn on me to
Right,
do it with
yes. Well, for
Gene, but I
the,
will.
yes, for now in the future, all finances go through our town controller, Jean Galucci.
IT.
Got it.
And as you can
Thank you,
see,
Joe.
Thanks,
Jean
Joe.
is here.
Thank you to the board.
Thank you, so we don't need
Joe,
Joe
thank you
for
for the
anything else?
history.
Did you need Joe for anything, or were
No.
you gonna have him? Yeah.
We don't need Joe, unless you want to, let's do the annexation while Joe's still here real quick. Okay, so, Dan, do you have anything, just any updates on the Casano annexation?
Yeah, I spoke to him today. We met with Stacy as well. There was some issues regarding if the property was actually in the zoned area that they thought they were. And apparently it was drawn up wrong at one point. So there was some discussion of whether he wanted to continue with that process. And when he contacted me today, he said he would, but that obviously the village still has a hold on that area and he would like to ask for an extension.
Okay, so funny he should ask for an extension, because me and Joe talked today about the fact that contract, out of the town board action extended until September 15th. So the town was going to have to take action tonight to either deny it or extend it because we won't meet until after the fact. So I spoke with Joe, and one of the things I spoke with Joe about was the fact that because the village has a moratorium on the B3, that what my recommendation would be, so I'll make the motion, if somebody wants to second it, we can discuss it, is that I would like to extend the opportunity for the Casano project to be annexed to the village to February of 2016. And I would like to refer back to the village to see where they stand on the annexation, since they approved it before they did the moratorium on the B3, and there's a new board, and they might have a difference of opinion on how they want to move forward. So my motion is to extend till February 15th, the annexation request with referral back to the village board to see how they would like to go forward.
I will second that for discussion.
Okay, so now, I don't know if Joe, you wanted to...
No, I would just say if the board does approve that resolution and extend it, Roseanne, the record should reflect that it's consistent with the request by
Okay.
the petitioner for an additional
Okay,
extension.
so should I ask Dan to make an amendment to add that language?
I think their request is on the record. I think
Okay, so the request is on the record, so you'll show Rosanna whatever our attorney just said. Okay, any conversation?
Well, I did speak to Rich last night. I was at the village board meeting. They are still considering what they're doing in the B3 district. So I guess I will ask Joe, are we better to continue to extend this, or are we better at this time to deny it and have him reapply?
since they've requested an extension, I would say you're probably better off to extend it. If you take a final action on it, you may be triggering some timing issues that perhaps the village board isn't ready to meet. So maybe the better course would be go ahead and do the extension. You can always bring it back on the table. But I think if you do something with it and take final action, you're going to almost require the village to take some sort of action. And it sounds to me like the village isn't prepared to take that.
Now, the one difficulty we do have, and this came from a discussion with a separate attorney, is should this land be annexed into the town, it would not be
annexed into the village.
I apologize. Annexed from the town into the village, it would not be included in the village map for the new zoning. In other words, so the maps will not have been dedicated as of yet. So once we do then take this, we will use benchmarks. So once the benchmarks are moved, this land then would now need to be rezoned also by the village. So is that any of our responsibility? In other words, so we are taking, as the village could decide they do not want to extend the district into this annexed land.
Well, that's why we're referring it back to the village.
They might, yeah.
The village very well could sit there and say, and actually, Kevin, you work in real estate too, so if our responsibility is, we need to meet, and just because I've been through annexation with the Niffen property, and Joe, you were present for all that, they need to show the reasons why. And in the example of the Niffen family, when they had that annexed, it made sense because of the services and the type of development and density they were seeking.
Well, that's why when you talk about triggering things, we have to do an assessment as a town board of the public benefit. And I don't think you can really make a detailed assessment of what the public benefit would be until the rules are laid down by the village and the town.
So what is the...
I think it's better just to extend.
So, and that I think I agree to that, but what I'm getting at is we extend it, we do agree to it, it then goes back to the village to decide, do they now want to take this, what used to be town, it is now village property, do they now, they are not required under any statute or law to say we are now going to include this in the B3 property. They very well could say we don't want to have that in the B3.
Jeff, I think that's why, but just
In which
understand.
case, the application for the annexation probably goes away.
Right.
Well, that for us.
Well, no, but Jeff, I think you're misunderstanding the, what I just recommended, was we extended, so this way, it goes till February 2016, but we're referring it back to the village board, so now the village board who voted on the annexation can now reopen it and say, we're studying the B3, do we want this property in the B3 or not? It's a new village board. They might not want this property in the B3, and they might choose to then rescind the annexation or do whatever they have to legally do to take the annexation off the table and say, we don't want it. So we're giving it back to the village right now to say, here, we're giving it back to you. This is, this was done before the new board, you're now reassessing the B3, you have a moratorium. Let's give the property back to you, decide how you want to move forward, then come back to the town if you want to move forward, and then the town will do their due diligence. So that's exactly what we're doing.
And I just wanted to clarify, I think that is a good idea, and having spoken with Stacy, I think it would be good for the new board to certainly review the proposal. But is there any issue with the fact that they've already approved it? That they were then going to refer it back?
I think that's the whole reason for referring it back, number one. And number two, apparently the applicant wants an extension of time.
Okay.
So I don't know that a prior approval by the village is going to be
Okay. That's
binding on either the applicant or the town.
Okay. That's what
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Is there any other reason why we need Joe here? No, we don't need him for the accident, we don't need to talk to him about town hall. So, you're more than welcome to stay, we love having you here, but if you want to leave, we understand.
I always feel so welcome, but I'll take it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Joe. Okay, so, as we all know, our longstanding IT person left. She moved to, I think, Montana?
You were correct.
She moved to Montana, and which left us with no IT service. So the police department, under Lieutenant Rob Lucchese, went and looked at what other police departments were using for IT, and they found somebody that got recommended to the town who's already been vetted by the police, which means that they're able to work on police IT stuff. And so what we're doing is, tonight, I'd like to do a contract, have the board approve a contract. What the recommendation is going to be is that we have these people as our backup IT people, which are not backup anymore, they're our IT people, would be charged a standard rate, which was similar to what we were getting charged anyway. We'll hire them till December 31st, 2015, and then in the interim, after we pass this resolution, we'll authorize putting together an RFP to go out for bid for potential IT services, and then we'll make a decision, when we have time to see who and what we want to bring in and what kinds of contracts we can look at. But for the moment, we have to have somebody, that we can pick up the phone and call and say, help. And unfortunately, we say that too much, but that's what happens when you have the kind of computer systems we have. So this contract shall serve as an open-ended working agreement between the town of New Paltz and Monaco Computer Services for the provision of technology consulting. MCS shall provide the town technology support to all departments within the scope of the town of New Paltz beginning August 17, 2015 and ending December 31st, 2015. MCS will respond to all emergency calls within 1 hour and non-emergency calls within 24 hours during normal business days. Whenever possible, it will be a practice of MCS to schedule on-site visits for the non-emergency calls within the 24-hour time frame. It shall further utilize remote assistance for more expedient services. The standard rate of compensation shall be $65 per hour for the hours Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Any calls outside of this time frame that warrants an on-site visit shall result in a $25 per hour premium added to the base standard rate. Billing will be submitted for review and payment every month, and time will be billed in 15-minute increments. Emergency calls will incur a 1 hour minimum. When procuring equipment, MCS will search for the best price and will attempt to first utilize any of the town's pre-established accounts with its vendors. Otherwise, MCS will purchase the equipment upon department head approval, which actually I'd like to change to upon controller's approval. And the town shall be reimbursed MCS on the next billing cycle. So I'd like to move this motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, motion so carried.
Have to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. I will just say, just real quick before we do the RFP, that I did call a department head meeting of all the department heads to come in when our new controller started, to introduce Jean to those who didn't know her, although most do know her. And one of the things that I did talk about was actually about this consulting service agreement, not this particular agreement, but the way in the past department heads would just call our IT person directly and she would come in, and it was never vetted through. You know that I approve all expenditures before anything gets, vouchered out. Even if it's, in the budget, we still approve everything, which has really been a very good process in terms of saving money and being on top of things. But the department heads would call the IT person, and then all of a sudden I'd find myself with a $5,000 bill that I had no choice but to sign because, the person, called and she came back. And what would happen was with all the department heads calling independently, there wasn't coordination. So we basically put down a new procedure that nobody's allowed to call the IT person, that it has to go directly to the controller, and then the controller will make a decision of, can it wait a couple of days? Will I call when I get 3 requests so we can bring the person in and it'll be more expedient and more efficient, and so nobody can pick up the phone and call the IT person without first calling the controller. And I think we have to let the police know that, because I don't know if we told the police that.
We already had an incident.
Do you want to go up to the microphone? Yeah. So you can be seen on TV and and thank you for coming.
We already had an incident where one of the departments needed a battery backup, which they probably would have just called May or a computer tech service and said, I need something, and it's an emergency basis. And what happened instead was they contacted Carol. Carol contacted me. We found out what they needed. It was what I would consider an emergency basis. Anyway, we ended up just purchasing it through Staples. We got it for $50. We didn't pay a tech service. We didn't pay a premium or a $65 or 15-minute increment. And I think if we do more things that way, we're going to save money.
So my first decree that it had to go through you has already saved us money. And you're being on top of it, you and Carol. Well, thank you.
Jean, before you leave, when you come up with a procedure like this, do you put that in writing?
I will, Warren. I will.
But it was my procedure.
Well, whomever.
But I put the procedure, I told the department heads that this is what they had to do now.
Sure.
And so, but we're.
I think
but
it's
we're
a
gonna-
good procedure.
But we're going to start, we're going
record
to.
those.
No, I think we're going to be starting to come up with a written document of more procedures, so everybody really is on the same page.
Excellent.
And moving forward, and then if we can put this all together, that, again, you have to understand that, and maybe this town board can adopt it, in terms of the warrant, like, in other words, they have to have my approval beforehand. That's not like town law or any of that type of stuff. It was just that when I came in, having understood what had, like, sort of transpired, it was, I basically, at the town board, asked during the reorganization meeting, that we passed a resolution that basically said as part of the reorganizational minutes that everything has to go through me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, next year, it might basically be, the you'll set it up where it goes through the controller. Well, actually, frankly, I would suggest that it go through the controller, not even through the supervisor, because the point is to try to, why we brought the controller in is to have somebody who's a finance expert managing the decisions of finances and not depending on who the next supervisor might be. And so it's, fortunately for me, I had been here before, so I had the expertise to know what I was doing, but that's not always the case. So, but yes, I agree. We did say we're going to be making a whole list of, quote, procedures, and it just works better when everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and when we can slap people on the hands when they don't do what they're supposed to do. But it always, it's just, since we've implemented that one thing, like, again, one of my things that I love to, to share is when we finally got a new website, which was a big problem for the past administration. And, again, when, the funny thing is when people, like Jeff said, it was up on the website immediately. Prior to getting the new website, nothing was ever posted. There was nothing posted. You did not know what the board did or what was going to be on the agenda that night. Since we got the new website, we post everything immediately, that's going to be on the agenda so people can read it before they come. And as soon as we get documentation that comes in on projects, we post it immediately, so it's there and people know what we're doing. But when we were going through the process of the website, we were bringing everybody together, the youth center had their own URL, the police department had their own URL, the rec department had their own URL. So we basically said you all have to be a part of the New Paltz Town new URL, and they said, but we don't want to, and we sort of said, And we got a voucher for like an $8,000 expense for the police to do some website stuff. And I said, I'm not approving this. We just did this brand new website for, for $6,000 and blah, blah, blah. And what we found out was the police could still keep their New Paltz Police URL. It's just, you know how it's, what's it called? It's
hosted.
It's hosted through ours, and then it's redirected. So they can keep it. The youth center kept theirs. Community Partnership kept theirs, the police kept theirs, but it's just all through our one hosting plan, and we saved $8,000 because I got the voucher and saw it and said no. And so it's been a really good procedure. And
Need controls.
yeah, absolute controls, yeah.
And even more, in fact, I was just talking to a DEP official, many of them have signed up for the alerts. So
Oh.
those of you who have not signed up for the alerts, please go on and sign up for the alerts.
Why don't you explain what the alerts are? 'Cause
And
we might not
what
know
it does is you can go in through our website, you go on and you enter in your email, and it will send you an alert based on what checks you put in for each one of the different departments. So it'll alert whenever a document is changed. Tricia can tell you one of the big places that it gets used is actually for the planning and the ZBA. Anytime anyone makes an application to us, and in fact I talked to an attorney the other night, every time we put a document up onto the planning board, they have signed up for it, and it sends them an alert if we add any documents or if they sent us any new documents. It alerts anyone who puts your email in. You can go on and ask for an alert on when the agendas are posted, and as soon as the agenda is posted, it'll send an email to your email address you have indicated, and will tell you there is something new added, and you can go in. So,
And then we do announcements, we always do
any
announcements.
announcements,
And also, I know that like the minutes go up, so if anybody wants
anything,
copies of the
anything that you
minutes,
want.
they'll
So
get the minutes, will come directly to them.
we-
Simultaneously, if, when the pool, when we were having problems, when Jeff was working so hard last year with Chris on getting the pool ready, people were calling us all the time to find out when the pool was gonna be open. So Carol basically said to them, go on, sign up for the e-alert, and you'll be able to get like an alert. You don't have to keep calling me, and you'll know exactly day to day, up to the minute, what's happening with the pool. And so all of a sudden, we were getting all these phone calls, and then all of a sudden, we weren't getting phone calls anymore because they all signed up for the e-alert, and every time Jeff or Chris posted something new about the pool, or Bill Russell, people knew. And all they had to do was go on, they got an alert, and basically said the pool's open today. So it is fantastic, when roads are
Yeah.
closed, it goes on to the alert. When the town hall is closed because of weather, it goes on to the alert. So it's, the Department of Motor Vehicles, that's a big one, because sometimes the DMV doesn't make it because the bus has problems. You put it right there, somebody gets an alert, don't come to town hall on Thursday, the DMV's not there today, so it's been.
And now that you mentioned that, the DMV bus is still disabled.
No, it was,
It is now.
no, it was here today.
They finally made it today?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize.
You don't get
I
the alerts, do you?
I do get the alerts, and some will tell you, as I was at town hall all day, I did not get to all my emails, so that is in my email. So
Okay.
I'm glad the last alert they put out actually said it was, okay, well, thank you very much.
Carol posted that for the folks too. It was yesterday.
Yeah, she's
Thank you very
she's
much.
on top of that all the time. So this new website has been incredibly fantastic, user-friendly, and
And
it's
we
probably the
found
most
that-
open
and we
government.
found that at Association
We
of
found it at the
Towns.
Association
We were
of Towns.
at
I
AARP and
specifically
talked to
went
many
there,
people.
went specifically there to find it, and it was as cheap as anybody could imagine. It was unbelievable, really seriously unbelievable.
Virtual towns, I can't say enough about them.
Yeah.
They are very good to
Yeah,
us.
yeah. And so now we get people demanding we put certain things up on the website for people who were actually on this board who didn't even have a website to put it up on. But anyway, regardless. So now what I'd like to do is ask just for a motion to empower the controller working with the department heads to create an RFP to be put out for the purposes of soliciting IT recommendations.
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Okay, so, I'm sorry, why don't, I promised you were gonna come up after Joe. And so why don't we invite our assessor to join us to do a little presentation? Oh, this one is signed.
And just so everyone knows why Tricia is here, she will tell you, I invited Tricia to come. I'm not sure if she was excited or not. She was not. But
We didn't know, do you?
I had invited Tricia to come to give a state of the real property value of the town of New Paltz. and also the, how kind of it works, and then also what you can do should you not agree with your assessment. And the real thing though is, now that we're rolling into budget, it helps if everyone understands completely how we do base our taxes. And so I had invited Trish here to tell us where we are on assessed value, where we're going, where we've been, and this will also help us make our decisions coming up over the next 2 months on how we create our budget.
Which I was not happy to hear that they
Well, let's
set
get
it down, so.
Let's get
because
the
we
news from
explain how that
Tricia.
works.
So Tricia, thank you for coming. I appreciate it very much.
The final roll was turned in on July 1st of 2015, and the total assessed value was $935,124,345. The taxable amount would be $833,871,546, leaving the town with a total of wholly exempt properties at $72,730,705, which is about 7.78% just for the town in wholly exempt properties.
Wholly, not partially, wholly.
Wholly, yes.
No.
That number is slightly down, only 0.12% on wholly exempt properties, but only due to the fact that a pilot expired.
And which pilot was that expired?
Rolling Frito-Lay. So they will be paying full taxes this coming year.
And this was only a 10-year pilot
Yes.
versus a 25-year potential pilot.
Exactly.
Tricia, what was the assessed value last year?
The assessed value last year, taxable or
Total assessed.
total assessed last year was $935,581,975.
So the assessed value from last year is going down.
Yes.
Total assessed value. What was the taxable value last year?
$834,301,044.
Okay, so there's very little change there, right?
Yes.
Now I see
It's a
that
difference of $429,498.
the difference between the 935 and the 833 is over $100 million.
Yes.
Are you saying, out of the 100 million, 72 million of that number is wholly exempt,
Yes.
and the other
Would go
30-some
to
million is partial exemption?
partial exemptions, special franchises, and utilities.
All right.
And then just wanted to say that the board had met this year on May 28th. There is one time per year that you can read your taxes, and that would be the fourth Thursday in May, which we would like to change back to the fourth Tuesday, which is when the entire state does it.
So
But
what-
we had that changed because the prior assessor did more than one town. So probably at the reorg meeting, I'll have you guys,
Okay.
if you would approve to go back to the norm, which is what the entire state does.
So at the reorg, you would like us to change that to, again, I
The
apologize.
fourth Tuesday in May.
Fourth Tuesday in May.
And this assessed value includes the village? It's just town outside the
That's
village?
just town outside the village.
Do you have the updated numbers for combined? You do?
I do.
Okay. You want to give me total taxable or total assessed, please?
Total assessed for town and village is $1,721,153,210.
Okay, and what was it last year?
Last year, it was $1,720,311,632.
Okay. And how about taxable for both?
Taxable for both this year is $1,135,174,942. Last year was $1,134,149,677.
Okay, so there's some differential, but not much, but it gives you an idea.
Mostly the village got the difference this year, and it was about $1,025,260.
So if you look at that, and this is why the college and everything is,
For
if
the
you look.
village, would you like to hear their total fully exempt numbers?
Now, did that include the new dormitories?
Yeah,
Well, if you
When will
look-
those will roll into the following year?
those will roll into the following year.
If you
And
look-
those are all on the same property.
If you look at your
So
totals,
that assessed value will go up slightly,
Mhm.
if you look at your
but
totals,
it's,
I'm with you.
Trish, 935 for the town outside the village,
yep,
1.721 for town and village.
yep,
So that's
32.
about $800 and some million of taxable value that the
Yes.
village has, right?
Yes,
Then you go to the next schedule. Of that 800 and some million, you're only adding 200 million of tax base. And the other 600 million goes away as non-taxable, right?
so
That's incredible.
the village is 61.14%.
61.14 is wholly exempt.
Wholly exempt. in the village.
I believe that's the highest in the county?
It's gonna be the highest in the
I
state.
believe we're the, I believe we're the highest in, I believe that's the highest
The
in
last time
Ulster
they had done a
County.
study, we were the
So, and
highest.
just, I want to bring this up again, Dan, maybe you can help us with this. This has been an issue of mine for a long time. That loss of, what did we say it was, 800 million?
800 million, a little over 800 million.
When the county allocates the sales tax they collect
Yep.
from the whole pool, the whole pot, we get penalized because they reimburse it based on your taxable value versus your assessed value. So here we are, we have this it's $800 million worth of assessed value that we don't get any credit for when it comes to apportioning of taxable value. So we're losing over $100,000 a year in sales tax revenue because we have $800 million of wholly exempt properties.
And part of the argument has been
And they're
given,
big consumers too.
Yeah,
So there's a
no.
lot of transactions generated by.
Switching hats from town board to my day job hat, this is something that I've actually looked at, and I don't think I'm giving anything away. It's something I actually was hoping that the comptroller's office would do a report on, not just for New Paltz, but the county as a whole, the distribution of sales tax and all the rest. So it's a topic I'm personally interested in and looking at on two different levels, but.
I understand, when I talk to Burton Gold, is that his name?
Yep.
When I speak to him, the argument is always, well, you should just be thankful you're getting sales tax revenue because if the city of Kingston didn't agree to the structure of the deal, or is it the town of Ulster with all the malls?
Well, so let me, so I can interrupt. When they make that comment that you should just be happy because of the deal, the truth of the matter is understood. The reason why the city of Kingston makes the deal is because all the sales tax comes into the town of Ulster. And so the city of Kingston, if they collected the sales tax, they would barely collect anything
Okay,
because
so-
it's the town of Ulster. So they make a deal with the county for their own benefit. So when the next time Burt Goldnick says we should just consider ourselves lucky, the county, the city of Kingston, everybody should consider themselves lucky. And the truth is, who really gets screwed? The town of Ulster.
Well, look, so I was gonna get to that next. So
I beat you to it.
the city of Kingston argument really isn't a good one.
Nope.
The town of Ulster argument is a good one, but the way they've decided to allocate it, there's only one town that has this much exempt property, it's us, so, I mean, we're
well, actually,
losing.
and to interrupt you quickly, the argument I got several years ago, speaking to the county, is that there are other communities that have large portions. Marbletown has a large portion of state land, so should they then allocate? Kevin used the key word, which I used, and they didn't want to hear. Much of our exempt is in the village, and that exempt is the university,
Right.
and it is filled with
Students,
consumers.
consumers,
They're
yeah.
consumers.
A lot of transactions.
So it's nice, I do use the wilderness in Marbletown. I'm not a large consumer to Marbletown services when I'm doing it. The students are a huge consumer in our community. New Paltz exists as it is now because of the university. I agree to that. It is the university, it is our surrounding area, and it is our agriculture. That's why we're here. But this university, to Kevin's point, is a huge consumer, and they're providing a very large tax base here. And the city of Kingston, to their argument, they are allowed to keep many of the taxes we can't. They get to keep the alcohol tax, the cigarette tax, or no, they keep the alcohol tax they get to keep.
Not sure exactly.
There's a few other taxes they do get to keep, which we don't as a town. It's only cities that can
Well,
collect it.
state law only allows cities to collect that additional tax.
But the additional tax. So I understand the argument, and that a lot of services are in the town of Ulster, but we are unique, and the argument was given. So the argument I was given several years ago was, well, then we're going to give it to these communities too. But no, they don't have the consumer base that we have.
Yeah, there's
Well-
definitely an equity issue with how it's distributed down.
And it's also, we don't get a pilot from the state for the college, but there's a lot of state land that's off the tax rolls where those communities get pilots from the state.
From the state.
So the state pays back the communities for taking that land off the tax rolls, but where we have an incredible piece of property off the tax rolls that demands extraordinary services, we get nothing back. So
And
we're,
they're able to buy more land.
We're losing probably $80,000 to $100,000 a year. That's my guess.
and with the tax cap, that's.
And it only can happen from Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
It changes. Up there on Wall Street.
So
The
I'd like to
little Wall
make,
Street.
so I'd like to make a motion to authorize Dan Torres to change the dynamics of this. Do I have a second? Any discussion? Should we vote on it? Okay, so Trish, back to you.
Just wanting to let all taxpayers know that all exemptions are due by March 1st each year, and that our office, if you previously had an exemption, will send out a renewal to return back to our office before March 1st of each year, and then down to the tax bills. School tax bills will be sent out
Oh,
on
let's talk about that, yeah.
the 1st of September, and if you have any questions regarding your tax bill, they should be directed to the school, which I can provide the number.
Yeah, why don't you provide the number, but let's just, what happens a lot is the school tax bills go out. People have concerns because they were told the taxes were only going up by X amount, but maybe they go up differently or whatever. We get all the calls, and this problem, and maybe Dan, I hate to do this to you or something, maybe you could figure out how to facilitate this, but what happens is when Trish says, that's not our problem, it's the school district, you need to call them. When they call the school district, a lot of times,
Refer them directly
the school
back to
district
me.
will refer them back to Trish.
I've had a gentleman 4 or 5 times.
I
in
will
one
certainly
day.
contact the school about that.
Okay, because this has happened many a time.
Well, even just for the taxpayers, because
It-
when you have a person
Yeah.
that goes to both municipalities
Uh-huh.
4 or 5 times in one day being directed back and forth, that's completely unfair to that taxpayer.
Is it, who,
It
the
does have-
actual physical bill itself, the paper bill, who
The paper-
generates that?
The
The
school.
school district does.
Well, the county prints them
The
for
county.
the school district.
So maybe one of the solutions too is to ask the school district to put a disclaimer on the bill.
Or their
That
phone
inquiries
number.
being
Or
made.
Or their phone
Or
number.
their
Or the
phone
phone
They don't put a
number.
phone number on it?
Okay.
No, they do not.
They have nothing. So what
Okay,
happens,
so-
it happens all the time, they come into the clerk, they come in the
They
clerk,
come into
and they
the
scream at the
clerk's-
clerk, they scream at Trish,
Yes.
you know, and it's not fair for the town to bear the brunt of people being unhappy with their school bill.
So
And
I
we
will,
will
I'll talk to them and
address-
see if that's
Yeah.
a possibility. I mean, I have a feeling of, maybe not this year, but for
No,
the
because
future.
they've
we'll
already
be
been
able-
drafted
Yeah,
for this
yeah.
year. But we will address any issues regarding their assessed values, if
Sure.
they're incorrect, or any exemptions on there that may be incorrect or forgotten.
Mhm.
Those are the only 2 issues that generally our office can handle
Absolutely.
as far as the tax bills.
So assessed value and exemptions on their bill. If they think their assessed value or their
Is
exemption is
incorrect,
incorrect,
then
they
they
can
can
come to the
contact-
town and contact the assessor who will help them. But anything else in terms of them being upset about the fact that their school tax bill might be more than they want to pay,
Or to explain the difference in the levy from one year to another, that all comes from the school district, unfortunately. Just as Rosanna does. I mean, I get 0 calls when the town tax bills go out, not 1. No, but because you put your information on there. So, I mean, if we could all just work together, it'll save the taxpayers a lot of headache.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them tomorrow and see.
Also, one more thing too.
can you give Rosanna the microphone?
It would be helpful if the school also put their physical address on their bill, because people don't know where they're actually
The
located
district
and that they
offices.
moved.
It's moved a few times.
Right,
Yeah.
and they, you know, they always come to us because when they think tax collector, they think the town tax collector.
Absolutely.
And so they don't know that there's additional school tax collectors, so it would be helpful for that physical address.
I will,
Maybe they could even send out a letter, basically, when they send out the tax bills, maybe, I don't think they will, but, or they could at least put it on their website if they have one.
I'll reach out to them
Yeah.
and see what we can do about it.
Thank you,
Because
Tricia.
Is there anything
That's
else?
it. No,
That's it?
Thank you for
And
your...
also, but just so everyone knows though too, is that, again, when you look at your tax bill, remember, you know, we've been doing, our increase last year was,
Nothing?
No.
Well, last year was right below the cap, which
Right.
was like 1.5% or
right, we were
something.
at 1.4, and the school increased 2.96, so almost 3%. Their budget is 53 million, our budget is just shy of about 11 million. So when you look at the increases and you see your tax bill, and that's hence then where the confusion comes, they get the school tax bill and they immediately call her office, and because they're saying, well, it's because you're being taxed the per thousand rate, so.
And they've been told that because certain houses or assessed values have gone down,
Oh.
that they're paying difference. for those.
Other towns, if their total assessed value goes down disproportionate to our town, then our town
Okay,
picks
great.
up the increased cost.
Yes.
So there's a lot of variables in that.
Mhm.
Yep.
So when they see a, whatever, 4.4% levy increase, they want to literally say A plus B equals C,
Right.
and they need someone to explain that to them.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tricia, thank you
Tricia.
very much.
Okay, so, Dan, we have the Historical Society.
So, we emailed out, I think, a week or two ago, the contract that we wanted to change. The only change from that original email is we just further clarified the role of the town clerk as the keeper of the records. Other than that, there's no other change. I feel comfortable with it. I don't want to speak for Rosanna, but I believe Rosanna does too. We met with the historian on the topic as well.
Just one question, Dave.
Sure.
Go to paragraph.
I think that's the one with the 4 on the bottom. Yes, that's it.
All right.
So the way this reads is the town clerk has custody, has the right to have custody of these documents.
Yes, the documents are our
Right.
documents.
When you
So
say custody, meaning she could take them from the Historical
She
Society
can.
and bring them to her office?
she can, she can take physical possession of these documents away from that location if she chooses to. The question then becomes in B, how do these documents leave her possession and what are the terms? When you're actually delivering them from the clerk to the historian, what happens? So I'm thinking that maybe there should be a process where the historian notifies the clerk in writing specifying the documents to be reviewed, copied, scanned, digitally photographed, or otherwise reproduced by the historian. And then you can, because now you have a record of
Yes.
what documents are being requested, and then if those documents are provided, you can have them sign off on that, so now you know they were delivered to her. And then I would say, unless otherwise specified in writing by the town clerk and/or the town board, the documents shall be returned to the clerk in the same physical condition as delivered to the historian by the town clerk. Special care shall be given to ensure the integrity of all original bindings, something like that. So I think we just need to flush out the mechanism now for Rosanna giving them up and getting them back. And I think B doesn't quite do that yet if you read it.
Okay.
That's my only suggestion, all right?
So are you asking to amend the contract to incorporate your language? And,
And any other language.
well, I guess I'm just trying to understand is, are you asking for us to incorporate that tonight and then for us to approve it tonight? Or are you requesting to incorporate that and for Dan to go back to whatever?
Whatever Dan's comfortable with.
I feel comfortable with us adopting now. I believe the clerk does as well. Joe has looked at it. We've met twice with the historian about this as well.
So-
I do like those changes, so I would ask that we add those changes, as you said, and other than that, I would feel comfortable adopting this tonight.
Okay.
And you're okay, Kevin, with that, and Rosanna, you're okay?
And we discussed this last week too,
Yeah.
and Dan's been good enough to meet
Uh-huh.
multiple times with the town historian.
Another few times,
I
yeah.
believe he's also met with Huguenot Street
I've met with him, too.
multiple times, and having taken a field trip, and Dan's been having taken a field trip, Susan, we took a trip down to where they were stored, and the concern is that they
Uh-huh.
stay in, the whole concern is that they stay in their original shape, and that there are multiple ways
No, I
for
do-
the documents to be transferred, and
I
that's
do,
our
I do, I
concern.
do understand a little bit. I mean, I've gotten emails from the historian. Dan kindly called me on a Sunday afternoon,
One of those afternoons,
on
yeah.
a Sunday afternoon or something, and Dan and I spoke, so I'm pretty much on top of everything that's going on.
And just, Dan, is there anything else that you would want to ensure the integrity of besides the original bindings? Is covers, I don't know.
I feel comfortable with how it is, and also knowing that, again, that the clerk is the one who is the point person for the documents.
Right.
So really would be at the discretion of the person who is in charge of all our town documents, which
But Kevin, I would ask,
makes us feel comfortable about how they be treated.
I would ask though, in a way, like when you say that, I know that we're talking specifically about the binding because of a particular situation most recently, but I would sort of think, shouldn't it be put in that the way the documents, when Rosanna gets the documents and when Rosanna gives out the documents, that no altercation to the documents in any way whatsoever?
Or we say same physical condition as delivered to the historian,
Yeah,
Right, okay,
with
so that,
special attention or care.
and since
provided.
they are
Okay,
government
with spe-
documents,
okay,
you couldn't
with special-
alter a significant amount of it.
but I mean, okay, with special attention, but it does say that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, fine, okay. So, would you like to move that?
I will make that motion.
Kevin, would you like to second it?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried, okay. Another thing off our agenda. Okay, so so before we just get into really quickly the town hall discussion, and we potentially deal with some personnel issues, let's just talk real quick on the bathrooms at the Field of Dreams, and we don't have to make any decisions as of yet, but, we've been talking about this for a long time, trying to do bathrooms out at the Field of Dreams. We've got the pavilion going, we've got a concession stand that we want to try to get going, and I think the concession stand, in some ways, was waiting for the bathrooms. There's been some problems with the county, between the Board of Health, the County Board of Health, and the county, some other department. There's been some conflicts with them for a number of years. And so a couple of years back, this board actually authorized Dave to look at doing a septic system out there. And Chris, we authorized you 2 years ago to bring out an extraordinary amount of fill for the purposes of a septic system. And so I guess we're sort of at a point now of what do we have to actually do to get the bathrooms going? Do we look to do our own septic system, or I've been asked by some people to go back to the county executive and ask him to work with us to allow us to get into the county's sewer system. So I was asked to speak with the county executive, and I didn't want to go back and ask that question knowing that we've gone through this many times and spent a lot of money to get a septic system. So what do you think is the best thing to do? And suggest to me what you think I should do, and then let the board agree with what I should do, and then I will go do it.
Just remember, we're only halfway there with the septic system. The dirt that we put, the ground out there does not perk. That means what we had to do is, I believe it was $14,000 worth of fill we brought in that would perk. Now that's only the bottom layer. Now to do it again, we have to bring in, I believe, the same amount, if not a little more dirt that goes on top. Then we can actually install the leach field into that dirt. So you're looking at, another, off the top of my head without, don't hold me to it, $14,000 worth of fill.
So, Chris,
Plus-
what about the connection to the county line?
Well,
How far is it?
not far enough to make $14,000. That would be the easiest. If
Okay,
it's
so-
allowed through the county.
And we're not
run a
hurting the
sewer line
county
in
at all,
and
right?
hook into it,
Well,
we do it.
and how much, will there be a hookup charge for the county?
There is.
Never got to that point. All I've ever heard was no.
If we don't get it
Okay.
waived because of the
Well-
community benefit,
There was a discussion that Susan and I had some county discussions prior to Susan coming in, There was talk of connecting with the county, there was some
Well, there's been a lot of talk connecting with the county for
There was
years.
some difficulties occurred that then stopped all discussions. They are now willing to discuss it again. They're very interested in getting water out to the dog park, which Chris believes would be possible to get water to the dog park. And Susan then could discuss with the executive's office connecting to their septic system, which they would like to have that discussion again, this
Okay.
board approved.
So-
So
Okay,
Chris will come
Dollar
up with
for
a price.
dollar, I believe that would be your best, you're not gonna lose, the
So
dirt you put in, you're not gonna lose, you can always, something ever happens, you can always build a system on it.
So
That's not gonna go bad.
Okay, so.
The county would like to see water at the dog park,
So
and we
what
would
I-
like to see toilets that flush.
Okay, so from what I understand, I mean, again, I know it was before we had an executive form of government, and there was a lot of conflict between the Department of Health and, I don't know if it was a county fair, if it was a different department, you know, in the county, it was just a lot of problems, maybe building grounds, I'm not sure. So if we're in agreement that hooking up to the septic is the best way to go and getting the water out there, then I have no problem following up with the county executive to try to see if we can't wrap this up and actually get the pavilion, get the concessions, get the
great. That would
bathrooms,
be great.
and actually, you know, almost really have a complete park.
And we'd be happy to work with them on a project
Okay.
if they want to do it.
Okay, so I
So
did,
Chris,
I
you
did,
actually may even want to attend one of the meetings with Susan
oh,
up
sure,
there.
absolutely.
Because there
Yeah.
are several departments up there that are actually in favor of this plan and
Okay.
would favor
So-
Susan going to talk to the executive.
Yeah, so I mean, I did invite the executive. I was with him a couple of days ago at a press conference on the UCAT bus, on the new app that they've created, you know, that if anybody wants to take UCAT, there's an app that you can download for your Apple or for your Droid, and you can basically find out what the bus schedule is, more importantly, find out exactly when the bus is going to show up at your schedule, if it's 5 minutes late, if it's 5 minutes ahead of time. And so instead of having to wait for the UCAT bus, you can now, up to the minute, find out exactly when it's going to be there. And the UCAT does go all over the county, and they even are implementing a line that's going from Kingston to New Paltz to the train station. And it's surrounded around the train schedule. So I did, the other day, let, you know, the county executive know about the dedication, if he could join us and stuff. So if he comes out to that, we could start the conversation. If not, I'll
Run the line that night.
I'll make a phone call. Okay, so that's that. So I guess the only thing left is really just to talk a little quickly about the town hall conversation. And, you know, Marty, I know there's been a lot going on, and you can, I mean, maybe why don't you first do some updates on the interviewing with the
Sure. The architects?
architects, and then I'd like to talk about how I would like to suggest we proceed, but let's just get an update from you.
So far, the committee has interviewed 4 architects. That's all they intend to interview. They've requested formal proposals for architectural services for the entire project from each of those 4 firms, and we anticipate having those tomorrow or Wednesday, I believe. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah, I think
Oh, he's here.
we're checking on references.
Yes,
At
yes.
this point of them, and I'm not sure that I got the impression that 2 of the firms may have already been eliminated. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Like, I wasn't at that meeting, but I understand you were all enamored with the last interview.
Well, we had a higher level of comfort with 2 of the 4, but we did solicit proposals from all 4 of them.
Right.
Yes.
And one asked questions, everybody asked questions.
Yes. And now we are doing interviews, as you mentioned.
Okay. So, you know, I've been following some of the conversations via emails, a lot of emails that have gone back between the village and the town officials, between the committee officials and whatever. And, you know, we started this with, part of our concern with trying to get a new town hall built was partly because of the cost for the heating. And we were just blown away by the fact that the cost to heat the building through the electricity was more than we expected, and we thought it would be pretty, if we kept going at that level, it was just so insane that we just couldn't do it. It has, you know, gone down, and we've been okay, but the winter's about to start again, so it'll probably start going up again, right?
Well, yeah, in other words, we looked into the bills, at the heating season, it was, I think, 16 cents a kilowatt, and during the cooling season, we've gone down to 4 cents a kilowatt. So there was your big.
But we're gonna go back up to 16, right? When we
Well, it
go,
depends on
Depends on energy
what they're,
consumption.
what they're gonna charge us, but yeah, you know, I'm sure we're not gonna stay at 4, it's, you know, that season the gouge, so.
uh-huh,
you know.
uh-huh. So that was sort of like the big concern and stuff, and then just trying to, you know, again, I'm gonna say we're all very happy out there, so, you know, I don't feel a credible need to move us, but on the other hand, I think a lot of the residents find it really cumbersome to get out to that site and find it really not convenient. And so, you know, I don't think town residents are really all that happy. So as we've tried to move this along, you know, I do know that this board, you don't really believe that trying to do a municipal center was the right way to go. And we did offer to the village to join us. You know, the village has yet to make a commitment. We had asked them to have their August 20, today's the 27th, right? Their meeting last night was supposed to be the meeting that they committed to basically telling us if they were part of it or not part of it. And from what I understand, it didn't even end up being on the agenda and they never even discussed it. And, you know, so as I've been sort of following this thing, and again, let me just step back and say, it truly doesn't matter to me on a personal level how anybody decides to move forward. We can move forward, we can keep trying to make this project move, or we can put it all on hold, and the new town board can pick it up and work with the village board. It could be picked up in 5 years, 10 years. I have nothing vested in this, and I just need to make that really clear. I'm still the supervisor, at least for the next 3.5, 4 months, and so I'm just trying to do the best job I can to continue to move things along based on what I just believe is my best intuition and, you know, and sensibilities. What I'm sort of thinking, and I'd like to just throw out to the board as a possibility to see how we move forward, is if the village got involved, we'd have to go through a whole process of whether or not we want to use the village hall site, the town hall site, and then go into how we're going to work together, how we're going to create it. Dave Lent, the chair of the committee, has probably already identified 40 obstacles with the town and the village that he would want to see worked out before we could even move forward. And, you know, it gets just more and more complicated as you talk about it. And unfortunately, it's hard enough to do things and get things done. It's hard enough to work with two governments and get things done. And I just seen this sort of spiraling a little bit out of control as I read all the emails that are going back and forth. And I still do believe that the town and the village should be in one building. I think it's a right way to go. I know that our new mayor really believes that the village hall site is a really valuable site and that from a village perspective, they can get a lot of return on investment for that particular piece of property, where the town hall site is a much more unusual site, and so there's not as much flexibility, and he believes that our site's a better site. So what I would like to suggest that as we move forward, and now again, let me just be very clear that this year our cap is pretty much 0. So that means we can't really increase our budget and stay under the cap. And I'm not going to ask you tonight, I don't think we have to tonight make a motion to exceed the cap just to give ourselves coverage just in case. And I don't want to do that and stuff, and because we don't get our first budget into like the end of September. I think we have time and we'll do our hardest to just do what we have to do. But remember, we can have substantial increases if we settle the police contract. That's going to be a lot of money. We don't know what our retirement's going to be. We don't know what medical's going to be. And again, we can't even increase our budget to stay under the cap. So we're facing a lot of real serious difficulties, which was the intent of the cap, to force communities to face difficulties so they'll consolidate.
You're doing a great job.
And so that's exactly what's happening, okay? Unfortunately, I don't believe that the village has the same pressures that we do because all the services are on the town. So we're the ones that are facing the problems, and we're going to be the ones who have to decide how to move forward to stay under the cap, and it's not going to be pretty. But with that said, you know, there could be money within this existing budget. I don't think we've spent contingency yet. I think a lot of the legal bills for the Article 78 were last year. I don't think we've been incurring a lot of bills for this year that I've seen or that I remember seeing, you know, whatever. So we might have money to be able to pay the architect this year and, you know, move forward and try to get a plan. I would just like to sort of suggest that maybe the town just decide that out of the A fund, we do the town hall project. The village is part of the town. We plan the building with the additional space for the village. I know Marty has told me that it would probably be about $1.8 million increase to the cost of the project if we were going to even just do the outline for the village and incorporate it in. But if we're bonding anyway, so what's the difference? If we're going to bond $5 million, $6 million, $7 million, and you increase it $1 million more, it's just added to the bonding cost. And that we basically have an architect, once the committee decides who they want, come back, make a recommendation, the board can choose to move forward, and have the architect plan and design a building with the needs of the village space. If the village decides to come in later, they can choose to come in and rent the space, they can come in and decide to buy into the building. If they don't want to do it, I'm sure the county could probably use some of the space. Office space is a demand in New Paltz. It's not like somebody else won't be able to use it. I'm sure there's another not-for-profit or government or even a business. And ultimately, we're going to grow into the space anyway. That's just reality. The town is growing. And I just think that that might be the best way to move this project forward. It's really a town project. The brunt of it is our project. I don't want to discount the village. I want to incorporate, but I think the only way to really move it forward in a smooth, seamless way is to sort of like move forward with the town as the lead, asking the architect to incorporate this, to do a space need, understanding the village space needs, but then let the town go forward. And we don't have to build out the space for the village or anybody else. That could be designed later when we know who the occupant is. So that's just my thought after the past 2.5 months, sort of watching the dynamics with the building committee, with the town board, with the village board, and I think that's the simplest, cleanest way if we want to truly see this project move forward. And again, we can take it off the table, and I'm absolutely fine, but if you want to move it forward, that's where I would suggest we move forward, and quite frankly, moving forward in any other way, to me, watching it is not something I really want to go through for the next 3 months, because I just think it's going to be more debate, conversation, arguments, and I just don't think it serves us well. So that's just my recommendation, and now I'll open it for conversation, and I'll shut up.
Well, I really appreciate the recommendation, and I just want to add just one thought to it. I've spoken to every village board member on this topic in the last week or so. And this may be the route that we end up going, but I do think it would be great if in September we could try to have a joint meeting for the purposes of just discussing this. And maybe at that meeting, it becomes clear that we're going to have to go a different route. But I do think that before we make this decision, I would like to see us meet together.
There have been some comments made to the village by many of us, myself included, that have suggested that the village has until the end of September rather than to the end of August.
Which is okay. I just want to point out, that I've gone to meetings, you've gone to meetings. We sort of, at one of the very first meetings said, okay, in agreement with the mayor, they would put it on their August 26th agenda. It was not put on the agenda. They didn't even discuss it. A promise was made to us. We stepped back. We held back because, there was a commitment that they would discuss it. It has not been discussed, and so therefore it's not really a priority for them. And so I'm not saying I'm not willing to wait until September, but honestly, we couldn't get a quorum with them tonight, and why don't you convince me that they really are committed enough to want to have this conversation with us that we should wait another month?
I think there is a majority of the village board who feels that way. I'm not telling you that every village board member feels that way at all. And that's why I do think it would be worth waiting to have that joint meeting. I admit that you're right, we have tried, this has not worked out, and we could just walk away. But I think that this project is so important that we should give them that one last chance.
Well, then, if you want...
The village board asked for a joint meeting, and they asked that we join them last night, and we weren't able to find a quorum among us, so we asked them to come
also
for tonight.
simultaneously, I also, and I'll be really clear, and I'll be very honest, I was very clear that after the experience of the consolidation and how that all went down, in terms of my belief that when there were certain people who didn't want it to happen, we weren't able to have an honest conversation as opposed to just discussing and having conversation. So my feeling was, I just think if we're going to have a joint meeting, which I'm willing to do, I don't think we have to wait until their meeting or our meeting. I think we can have a special meeting one night that works for all of us, which I think is actually better, and I would prefer that. But I will say that if we are going to have that meeting, it's got to be here with me convening the meeting and running the meeting from the perspective of, at least I believe we'll stay on task of talking about how we move forward, because I do believe there's certain village board members who might not want to see this happen. And so if we lose control of the conversation, let me just put it this way, I'm not willing to go to a meeting where I have to sit and be subjected to insults and comments and that type of behavior that I've experienced in this conversation. And I just feel it's important for the town board to be the ones that sort of convene the meeting.
We
and
want
invite.
home field advantage.
Well, no, it's, you know what, it's our project,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah, no,
looking
I
to
know.
see how we can incorporate them into our project. And so therefore, I feel we have to be the one convening the
and I
meeting,
think that's-
you know, and for us to go to a
that's fine,
village
right,
meeting when it's,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I
So-
think that's fair. So then, do we want to, and I don't know, maybe this is just me and Marty,
No,
if
it's
this
fine.
is something that we want to do we want to talk about dates right now?
We can do that,
Tim has
absolutely.
proposed
Yeah.
September 10th prior to the,
Well, I think I want to be, before we go into that, I just want to be a little careful.
And then
One
Josh also has
is,
something.
you know, and, you know, Marty, you and I discussed this even, you know, a few months ago when you were innocently in town hall and you said, what can I get involved in? And unfortunately, we had this project, so we said, here's something for you, Marty. So I will say thank you, because it was something I really honestly did not have the time to keep continuing on. One of the things is, I find, and I don't feel as much as it's a home turf, Dan, as I feel is, I don't believe it's this body's job to sell the village board on joining us. If they feel they don't have the need, I think as their own body, they should be able to discuss that. I was disappointed last night that as a board, they could not even vote to accept the question and answers of the water. They didn't even have it on their agenda. We had to ask to have it added to the agenda because I brought along a DEP representative. So they don't quite seem to see the priority for something they're going to be losing, which is a vital resource, water. I'm not sure if us as a body, and Dan, you tell me, you think it's the responsibility of this body to, and I will use the term sell, and Marty, if you have another word, or Dan, a better word, let me know, but to sell them on why they need to join us for the project. I truly do believe we should have one building. I think there would be tremendous advantages to us sharing a building, to having two building departments next to each other, to having clerk and treasurer offices very close to each other. I think we would find tremendous efficiencies. I think you would run a more efficient government. I would like to be able to walk into one office and be able to take care of everything. There's people that need the village and need the town for different operations. The discussions that our building department could have with the village building department. The planning departments being next to each other, I think would be incredibly efficient. But I don't know if a joint meeting, if we are going to sit and sell someone, when last night I watched a village board member say, well, my dream is to have the municipal center for the village be down in the pit when someone's making a presentation on the pit. We're not going to be able to eminent domain that piece of property. It just, we've had this discussion with attorneys, it's just not going to happen. There are other spaces for which you could build municipal center. So unless someone can come up with and I will make up a price, the millions of dollars to first purchase the pit and then the millions to develop it, it's not a reality. The next reality is, and Tim spoke in favor of it, in fact, was looking at the Veterans Drive, which we do have space. It would take some reconfiguration. Marty has looked at it, and he comes from a history of development. I just don't know if, and I'm not here Kevin's opinion, do we need to sell the body on it?
Here's what I'd like to do. I haven't met with the new village board, so I would actually like to invite them to meet with us to see exactly where they stand. Let's give them the respect and courtesy they deserve as the village board. Invite them to a meeting, maybe September 10th is the idea.
The only issue I have with September 10th
Well,
is
well,
that's going to have, that'll have a drop dead because of the meeting.
Yeah, let's not
I
talk
don't want to be
about,
on here.
let's not talk about the
But
date, let's just
That was all the second
I
one.
would
Yeah.
like there to be a fresh dialogue.
Yes.
There's new board members here, and let's see if we can get something done.
Okay, but the only thing that I'd like to say, and it's not that I don't disagree, but one of the village board members was very clear that they wanted the village board to have a discussion without town board members even present when they have that discussion. And they wanted to have a discussion amongst themselves about where they wanted to go. Fine, that's what was agreed to, but they've still yet to have that discussion.
But that's their choice, so they've
No,
chosen not to do that.
I understand that, but I'm saying that what was put down as a criteria was the village board should discuss whether we want to do this or not, if this is a priority and how we're going to move forward, and we want to have a meeting before we have a conversation with this
Susan,
town.
I like your idea about incorporating the capacity into our new structure. I like that. But let's sit down with them, give them an opportunity to see if they're interested or not, and even if they're kind of not committed yet, we could still proceed with our plan to build with additional capacity, because they might change their minds in the future.
There are challenges with doing that we at least need to be cognizant of. It doesn't mean we don't do that. One is, if we do this jointly, and the opportunity is to share services. And it wouldn't necessarily mean putting building departments in adjacent spaces. They might be in a common space because there might be personnel adjustments that would be realized, more economies of scale, reduction in taxes, less square footage that's needed to be built to accommodate 2 building departments. Another consideration is, if you build that additional space, then you have to say, well, where do I build it? You probably preclude, or at least make more difficult, sharing services, because now when you build that additional space, you're not going to build a little bit here next to our building department and a little bit here next to our clerk. You're instead probably going to put all of that additional space someplace contiguous to itself. And if you put it on the first floor, because you say, well, maybe the village doesn't come and we'll rent it to somebody else, and maybe it's government and maybe it's private sector. The private sector probably doesn't want to go up to the 3rd floor. They probably want street front exposure or ground floor exposure. If you build a space and you say, I'm going to build 3,100 square feet in anticipation of the village coming in later on, that space is up there. You've spent, I think, Susan, I told you, an estimate of $1,237,000 based on 3,100 square feet at $400 a square foot. But whatever that number is, those are just numbers from architects, and nothing that any of us have any other insight into. So you now have that space that you've spent $1 million plus for. Maybe it's less if you don't build out the interior and you just build the shell, understood. That might be 25% of the total cost, or maybe a little bit more or less. But you have it sitting up there. You got operating and maintenance costs to have that space. So just building it in like the Field of Dreams and saying, we hope somebody will come, I couldn't personally
Somebody did come, but that's
advocate.
beside the point. Somebody did come.
Well,
Not for
yes, they
dedication,
did.
but go ahead.
They were kind of old, like some of us. So I think we all have to just be cognizant of those considerations if we decided to do something on our own and build that space. Now, there is a reason to build additional space, and that's when the programming part of the process happens, and the discussions with all the department heads and others are happening that says, how much space do you need now, and what do you project is going to be your need, which is what Susan is observing. That then would perhaps suggest building additional space, but it's for a specific purpose. Our expansion, it's not for making it available to anybody else, the town, the village, or county government, or state government, or the private sector. So I think it becomes problematic to do the programming of the project unless you know what the users are going to be and what their needs are.
Okay, so that's why you need a commitment.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, you need a commitment. I firmly believe you need a commitment, and I think there should be a deadline on it. I was advocating an earlier deadline rather than a later deadline, and I think the time is here. There are other costs that will be incurred if we delay this. Interest rates, it appears, are likely to start to go back up by the Fed raising it, whether they do it in September or December. None of us have a crystal ball. There are also construction costs that are going to escalate as we defer doing this. And how much will that be? George Seafree might be the best one to tell us what that is. We've heard some costs maybe 10%. And we do happen to have a committee member here who's been very patient and has asked to give us his thoughts. So Susan,
I was waiting for everybody on the board to give their opinion, and then when everybody was done, I was going to let Josh speak before we decide how to move forward. Josh, can you go up there just because of,
So as a member of the committee who's been dealing with this for like 8 years, we've seen a lot of these numbers come by the last time we did it. And one of the things that we reported to the town board, for as much as the board got it, because some part of the board didn't get all the information, was every year that you put it off, the costs are going to increase in terms of construction materials, labor, et cetera, et cetera. We saw it get stalled the last time. We had discussed with them coming up with a date. Even, my question is that even if the two boards meet, okay, and I somehow am inferring from your conversation that meeting that they would be able to get more information in order for their board to make a decision. But I know that the mayor and another member of his board have been coming to meetings, so whatever they've been missing, I believe, Marty, you've been keeping them up to date on everything.
I have.
So it's not like the people, the mayor and another board member have not been given the information of everything that we know up until this point. The rest of the board, just because you haven't been in it, you're getting reports from Marty and from us. But I don't think the other 4 members of this board have much to tell them in terms of the information, of the actual true information that we've been gathering. Because you haven't held back from them. They have all the information.
Oh, you went so far as to research your historic records and come up with a PowerPoint presentation and other documents that address what has happened in the past, and that has been forwarded to Tim and to Don Kirk.
As a matter of fact, Don sent me a note thanking me for that information because it wasn't clear based on the information before. But they are up to date in everything that we know. I don't know that anybody on the board can give them anything else. The questions that they have, you've given, the mayor has the information and Don for the meetings he's been at. So my question is, what more can they get from this board when they meet with you that will help them?
I think we had a great example where Jeff talked about the issue with the pit site. He said he attended the meeting, he noticed that issue. And you're telling it now, which is the appropriate time to say it, but we don't have that fluid dialogue where if we had Don sitting there and said that, we can have that conversation
well, we had
that,
at our committee meeting, when the mayor and Don were there, I have never stopped talking about the pit because that was our recommendation years ago. And it's been made very clear that it's not available.
It's in here that you recommended it.
And the mayor was very clear and understood it, and this board made it very clear that that's not a reality. So that's not even on the table. The only thing that they can make a decision on are facts, of the facts of what can and cannot be. And that's what we've been researching. And as, you know, now we get back the architect's reports. But they have to decide if they want to move. We're much more under the gun to do this project. They don't feel the pressure that we do because we're getting the bills on the temporary building. We know, we're going to know what the town needs. We can assess what they need. But all the other questions that, well, maybe we should have it there and that is going to prolong the project and there's no clear answer and you turn it into a much more complicated process than it needs to be if this is our building and we're going to build it. Marty makes a lot of sense. Building a space that you don't have a clear use for, although you're saying there may be use, but if you don't have it, you're going to be paying to heat that space and you're going to be paying to build it, and that's more expense. So we have to come as a town and ask our taxpayers to put forth. The less money we have to borrow to do the project, the more feasible it's going to be, especially under the tax cap and everything else that's happening. That's just my opinion. I'm not speaking for the committee, but I'm speaking as someone who knows more about it than I ever cared to know. But I do, and you know, Marty's been there, and he's been around, and we haven't had anything back from the village. So I'm just saying, they have all the information. What we asked for is, it's my belief that if the mayor had the consensus, he would have called for that vote. I personally don't see that he has the consensus. We said, we didn't ask for a supermajority. We just said, you get, 3-2 vote. And it didn't come up. In fact, it wasn't even discussed after we talked. We talked about this meeting for weeks with them. And they said, yeah, we're going to discuss it. The mayor's away and he comes back. And then nothing happened. Makes you think, well...
No, I mean, I agree, but I think that we are speculating at this point, and I like what Kevin said about having that kind of clean slate conversation. And I think that that'll answer our questions on this as well. And I think it would be worth waiting just a little bit longer to answer those questions. And maybe we have the same result that we're talking about now, but I would like to be able
I
to.
mean, I'm not saying that that's the whole, thing and raise it next week.
Yeah.
But it can happen pretty soon, and on the timetable, as we know, the timetable isn't gonna be, they say yes, it's going to get started tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's a process. I'm so sure Marty's explained to this board, and the mayor is aware of it, and after speaking to all the architects we spoke to, we know that it's longer than we may have anticipated at first, than Marty anticipated at first.
Yes.
And we have to deal with facts and reality, that's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And so do they. And, to get a project like this off the ground requires the will to do it. And we saw what happened years ago. There wasn't the will to do it. Right now, I believe that this board has the will to do something. And that, and based on the needs of the town, which is what they represent. And I just don't want to see the project drag. Because the police were supposed to, when we finally moved the police, that was 30 years after they were told they would just put in the temporary headquarters. And it took 30 years in our committee to do it, after years of bickering and talks went on. I don't want to see it take 30 years to move town now.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. So what's everyone think if they look at their calendar then? Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's look at our, the only fear I have though of the 10th is, and Marty,
Unless we start early.
is I really just don't want to push into a meeting that is also critical to this community, which is water. So I'm just a little fearful of the 10th. So I would really prefer, I know the...
That was Tim's suggestion.
Yeah, it just, and you see my fear there though, right? I don't think it's fair to
And
those
I
numbers.
forgot to tell you, Jeff, on the 10th, I will try to be here, but my son's getting married on the 12th. And my son's marriage takes precedent.
You know it does. It absolutely does. The village board has a meeting on the 16th. They have changed their calendar a little bit. So I don't know if that following Sunday, the 17th, works for people.
Can I just ask a question? I mean, again, from my perspective, when does the village meet? Do they meet on the 9th and the 23rd?
No, they've moved their meetings. They are going to be...
So they're doing the second, they're doing the third,
We're in
fourth like
September.
us?
They are going to be doing, I know they're doing the 16th. Did I have these, I believe I have these dates correct. If anyone, actually Marty has the calendar up. They did move their meetings, I
I
believe.
wasn't aware they had, but that would be the 16th if they push it back a week.
They
yeah.
did move it for holiday
Oh,
schedules.
it's the Jewish holidays.
The Jewish holiday, I believe
Yes.
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur is, I think, on the 15th or 16th. isn't
Right,
it?
so the
Or
16th,
8th or 9th.
I believe they're meeting on the
Eighth or-
16th and they moved another one. So I don't know if the 17th is good for these board members to propose to them.
I can do that.
So, but the only thing is, it's just, again, I don't know, should we be asking, again, the village board needs to have a conversation amongst themselves. Are they interested in doing a joint municipal building and moving forward, and they've never had that conversation. And I just need to, before we commit to having a meeting with them, I need to be
Well, they're having,
convinced that they're willing to sit and have an honest conversation with us without me hearing, well, we haven't had a conversation amongst ourselves, and we have to have that conversation.
If we offer that
But if they-
opportunity,
if they
that
accept
leaves it up to
the
them
meeting.
whether or not to accept or
If they accept
decline.
the
If
meeting.
Right, and I don't
we
need
don't offer
to,
them the opportunity, we've made the decision.
and I don't need, we don't need to make a motion, but I
I'm
would
not
like
saying to
to,
make it unilaterally, I'm just trying
I
to deal
would
with
like
the reality on the table.
I would like to
Let
make,
them decide.
I would like to make a suggestion. They are having a special meeting on September 2nd. And I would like to make a suggestion that if Marty could reach out to them and ask, it's a special meeting they're having,
And what?
if Marty could reach out to them and maybe they would allow Marty to at least make a presentation to them to ask them to a special meeting.
Well, I don't think we need
With
that.
us.
We don't need
I
that, we
would be
just.
happy to do it, but I will be on vacation then.
But it doesn't matter, we
Well,
don't have
how
to, we
dare
just have to basically write, first of all, they're gonna read it in the newspaper anyway.
Yeah, maybe they'll
But,
watch it.
but it doesn't matter, it's like we can very
Okay.
easily just, say, at, last night's town board meeting, we, kind of set up these couple of dates to ask you to come join us for a special meeting to discuss moving forward on the town hall. As we look at the dates, let me just throw one other thing out, because the police department's lease is gonna at some point expire, and we're gonna have to figure that out. We do have New York Rising money that was sort of allocated to an EOC. At the time, it was being looked at as the town hall, justice court, police, fire, rescue. We were looking to potentially do it at Fire Station 2. My understanding is that the fire department told New York Rising they're not interested in having a joint building with the town, and, but they would still consider having a building with the police, the fire, and the rescue, but not with the town, which is okay, you know, we're big people, we can move on our own. In some ways, if the police did go to the EOC, it frees up, you know, space for us in terms of not worrying about parking and all that. It's just a matter that I really still believe the justice and police have to be together in some way, and maybe it's just a substation, you know, a substation that's at the town hall site with the justice court, so there is some police presence, we can work that out. So one of the things, I know Lori DeBoard from New York Rising is trying to set up a meeting with myself and the mayor to talk about where we're going with the New York Rising money for the EOC, so we have to just also sort of just throw that into the mix, so I'm just throwing that out to you. So in terms of getting back to a date,
Again, 17th, anybody?
no, I might not be here on the 17th, I'm not positive. I think I'm going to be away on the 16th, but I should be back on the 17th. But we can also try to do a special meeting that, you know, isn't on Tuesday or...
Is there any issue with doing the 9th?
Well, that's when they canceled, apparently canceled their meeting.
All right, 'cause,
I assume that's because they
Oh,
didn't
that's-
have a quorum.
Okay,
maybe?
sorry.
Just an assumption.
Yeah, probably correct.
Isn't Dan, no, okay, Yom Kippur is on the 14th.
Are you on
No,
there?
Rosh Hashanah is the 14th, so Yom
Yes.
Kippur's not...
The 9th, they may have
So it's
actually
not the
scheduled a
holidays.
village board meeting. Do they show it on their website yet? Do you have internet here?
Probably.
See
My
if the
schedule's
9th.
really crazy.
They moved theirs up, and I apologize, they gave the dates last night, I didn't bring those notes.
I mean, could we consider trying to do it on like the 7th or the 8th?
8th
Or
is out.
Tuesday?
7th is Labor Day, 8th
Oh.
is Democratic Caucus.
Let's do it that night. We just won't show up to the caucus.
You're a thinker.
To be fair, there will be a forum there. So,
At the caucus.
yeah.
I don't know where to find their calendar, to be honest with you. If anybody does, I'll hand it.
So what, I'm sorry, what was wrong with the 9th? We just know that they canceled that day?
I'm not sure if they canceled that, actually still is a meeting, I know they moved, I know one meeting was moved to the 16th.
Their calendar still says September 9th.
So September 9th, they may have already had a village board meeting, so maybe it was just the 16th was the one they moved.
Just like that.
And what about the 14th and 15th of,
Do you want to add,
what about September
I
15th?
guess you have to add the calendar.
Tuesday the 15th.
So, my calendar is-
What's here?
15th
15th is here.
It's fine with me.
15th here,
September 15th?
Yeah.
Okay, right now, September 15th here.
7:30?
September 15th?
Yeah, right here.
7
here.
o'clock.
7:30 would be better.
7:30?
You could do that. See, that's that village.
Well, they're still showing the 9th as a meeting.
Yeah,
It's
so
very
we can-
public.
So we can, do they have anything on the 15th?
No.
No, well, let's see what two more are.
Planning board.
Planning board.
That
So
doesn't,
that
But
doesn't happen here.
that
impact
doesn't
them.
impact us. Yeah, we'd be fine doing that here.
Okay, so can we offer this 15th to them? So Marty, will you,
I can.
you can write to them and say that we'd ask like 7th to the 15th? We could do 7 o'clock, couldn't we?
7:30 would be better for
Okay,
me.
7:15, 7, all right, because that's a working night for you. So we do September 15th, 7:30, and then the backup date would be, can we try September 22nd? Is there anything
That's Yom Kippur.
about Yom Kippur? Okay,
Would not be happy.
no, we can't do that.
It looks as though they do not have a scheduled meeting.
Yeah, because it's,
Affordable housing and
because it's Yom Kippur, so we wouldn't, they wouldn't.
work anyway.
Then what about the 28th? Because I can't do the rest of the week, I'm gone.
That would,
I can't do the 28th either, quite
We have
frankly.
planning board here.
What about the 29th?
ZB, no.
There's already a.
And what about the 30th?
30th is free.
Do they have anything on the 30th?
no, it's open.
30th.
Okay, so
Backup is
it's
the
the
30th.
30th, the 15th, and the backup is the 30th.
Okay, Susan, good job.
Okay?
There we go.
Great.
Okey doke. Okay, so I'd like to just do, I'd like a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel in the highway department and the youth center.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll be right back.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I love those colors on you, Rosanna. It's really pretty.
She's ready for a photo.
Okay, oh, shoot.
I know, it didn't work out.
No, can I get the?
I don't know.
We'll talk after. Okay, so I have a motion to come out of executive session. Okay, Jeff, would you like to make the motion?
Action was taken, the action was
We can take
taken
the
to
action
make
now.
it, but we're going to take an action now, so no action was taken in executive session. I would like to make a motion that due to an accident at one of our recreational events through our new Paltz Youth Program, that we pay a dental bill of $926.25.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Okay, so the only thing left is, do we, budget mod? So we have a prepay for a youth bus trip for Leprechaun Bus in the amount of $1,454 for the youth program bus trip for their September 25th trip to Six Flags. And so we are doing this as a prepay.
And just so that we get reimbursed from it because the kids pay.
Right.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. That's the only prepay we have. And so the only other thing is minutes, which,
What was it? Was it the 20th? Or do I have the wrong?
23rd and the 29th. The 23rd was,
you weren't here and Kevin wasn't here. So the 23rd
Yeah, the
was
wrong
just myself, Marty, and Dan. And we talked about a strategy for the new town hall. We talked about the IMA with the Village for Millbrook Preserve. We did the Shangam Runners Parade and the Talfaro Farm letter of support for the easement. You weren't here, Jeff, huh?
Did I come in? No.
No.
that was a pretty short one.
I was on vacation.
Yeah, no, I know. You must have given me the letter.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's the letter I made, yes.
Yeah.
I move we accept the minutes as drafted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Kevin, are you voting or you're not?
Abstain.
Okay. And special town board meeting
Okay.
on the 29th. Jeff, you were absent again. Kevin opened the meeting. We went into executive session to discuss personnel relative to the building department. We came out, and then we made a motion to hire Mark Jaffe as a full-time building inspector one.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried.
I think that was our shortest meeting ever.
Yes, it was.
Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so...